Hi everybody, good morning and welcome to the very first session of MW Coaching Live. I'm Marcus and this is my business actually. I'm the founder, the director of MW Coaching. MW Coaching is a session or a live show. So the MW Coaching live show will be a chance for me to talk about certain things with regards to the work that I do and to answer questions live and to go through anything essentially like that. With MW Coaching, what I do is that I actually coach public speakers. I coach people who want to hold talks or get more education with regards to either the LGBTQ plus community or people within who are LGBTQ plus and who want to kind of break away from their past. And when you grow up as part of LGBTQ plus, you do sometimes carry quite a little bit of trauma, and you take that with you moving forward, and it does shape how you view the world. And what my intention is to help people break away from that and realize that actually there is a life outside of your history, and it's the way that you look at your history and how to spring yourself forward. So with that in mind, I wanted to create a live show where we can delve into some things a little bit more as well. And so here we go. We are officially live. Now, the great thing about this as well is that you can actually comment live and we can discuss certain things. We can talk about your questions. I can answer any questions that you might have. I can and basically have this as an educational piece as well. So let's crack on with who I am. So my name is Marcus, and I have been doing MW coaching since February of this year. So actually it's very new and new terrain for me, let's say. However, I'm not actually new to stuff like this. So I actually, during 2020, I started a live show called Spill It UK, which then developed into a podcast. And it was a podcast show that's currently streamed over on all streaming platforms that you can possibly think of, where we discussed inspirational stories, sharing inspirational messages. And the reach of that, what started off as like a little small town little thing, has then developed into this phenomenon where actual celebrities were coming onto the show and they were discussing their inspirational stories just to inspire others. And though Spill It has officially ended, the streams and the podcast episodes are still streamed to this day, which is absolutely phenomenal. And it was through the work that Spill It was doing that I wanted to do a little bit more with Spill It. So this is how this has kind of come about, you see. So MW coaching, in essence, with MW coaching, or with Spill It, sorry. So with Spill It, I was speaking to people. We did a full month of Pride events where we had different guest speakers on from the LGBTQ plus community. And we essentially, when I was speaking to these people, they really inspired me to want to do something more, something bigger. The messages that people had, the things that they wanted to share, I essentially really wanted to do something that was honoring that, but then also doing more. When I saw some of the things that people were going through, or some of the messages that people needed to share, it really made me think, well, there's something more that I can do. There's something more that I can do with my platform. And when I saw the struggles that people were going through, I felt as though I can use my platform to help these people get their messages out and to really take charge of their own lives and to help inspire others as well. And so therefore, that's how MW coaching came about. It was more of a chance for me to speak to people directly and to show them that actually life can get better. It was great for me because growing up, there were issues with bullying and me carrying around that trauma afterwards, and me feeling as though things were not going to get better. But I managed to switch my life around through outside influences, through friends, through close friends as well, and I managed to essentially turn my life around to help other people. And I wanted to always do something with regards to coaching. I'm a certified life coach. I am a qualified trainer and coach as well. And I never did anything with it. And with MW Coaching, when I launched that, I thought, well, this is my chance now. This is my chance to actually do something. So yeah, and here we are today. I wanted to do that a little bit more just to kind of get my reach out there with regards to MW coaching and with my public speaking and things like that. And so therefore, this is where this has come from now. So we now have a weekly live. So it's going to be called like the weekly download, if you will. Well, the weekly download, we'll be talking about certain things that I wanted to discuss and a way for us to just connect on a different level as well when it comes to the coaching element, and for people to express their opinions, and then for us to have that open conversation. And that's what this platform is all about. However, during June, it is Pride Month, and we are going to be talking all about Pride. So Pride Month, what is it all about? Now, over my social medias, no matter where it is, whether that'll be on Facebook or Instagram or on LinkedIn, I talk very heavily about Pride and what it is. It is something that I'm very passionate about. So when I was growing up, I always felt as though Pride was essentially just a party for people. It was just a way for them to come out and go, oh, look at me. And it was a very naive way of thinking. It's a very young person's way of thinking. I never realized that actually there is so much more, and there's so much history behind the movement of Pride. And over the years, it's developed, and I've educated myself, and I've realized that actually Pride is so much more than what it looks like or what it can be perceived to be. Pride isn't a party, it's actually a protest. And so dating back, and we look at the Stonewall riots that first kicked it all off, essentially, we can see that, you know, Pride has that message behind it. And I think over the years, because obviously things have become a lot more accepting, and because people are a little bit more open and people are a little bit more relaxed around LGBTQ plus people, I think that the viewpoint is that Pride is pretty much a party because of the party element that has happened with regards to Pride. So when you look at things like Manchester Pride or Brighton Pride or Blackpool Pride and things like that, and places like that, there is pretty much that party element. You have the live artists, you have the parade of glitter rolling down the street and all of that lot. And I feel as though because of that, that's where we have gone. That's our mindset now, that we think that it is some type of party. It's just a parade. It's just a look at me movement. And it actually isn't. It is a protest. It is how we remember the Stonewall riots. It's how we remember those people who have fought for the freedoms that we have today within the LGBTQ plus community. And over this month, we are going to be discussing Pride and what it means to certain people. We're also going to be doing that little bit more of education when it comes to Pride flags as well. So it's something that I feel very passionate about when we start talking about Pride. It's the Pride flag, where did it originate from, and people and the meaning behind the flags as well. Because a lot of people will just look at the flag and go, well, it's just a flag, or it's the gay flag. And actually, there's a lot more meaning behind that flag. And we're going to go look at some of those flags today. And as the weeks unfold, we are going to be looking at more and more of those flags that represent everybody within the LGBTQ plus community, not just the community as a whole. But today we are going to talk about the Pride flag in general. And then we're going to move on to spotlight questions. So it's going to be questions from yourselves. So I put out a post over on social media, or people have got in touch with me via my website, where they can ask me any questions and I will answer them every single week, as well as being able to, for you to ask questions live as well. That's the great thing about this platform as well. You can essentially type up a question and it'll pop up for me, and then I can answer it live, so we can have that conversational piece live as well. So let's talk about some of these flags, shall we? Let's get into it. So we're going to look at the very first flag that ever was around when it comes to Pride, and that is this glorious looking flag here. This is the original, this is the OG Pride flag. Now the OG Pride flag actually came out in 1978 after and it was it's named for the Gilbert Baker Pride flag. And so Gilbert Baker, who was an activist, he was a gay military veteran and a drag queen, he was tasked by fellow activist and politician Harvey Milk with creating a celebratory symbol for the gay community. So it has 8 stripes. It's an 8-striped rainbow. And the reason that it was an 8-striped rainbow was because he wanted to celebrate everything that made the LGBTQ+ community a community and what brought us together. So starting from the top, actually all of these colors represent something, and that's what not a lot of people know, you see. So the hot pink up at the top is actually for sex. So it is for sex. The color below it, so the red color, it's representing life. For orange, which is the third color, we're looking at healing. Yellow is sunlight. Green is nature. The turquoise color is for magic, and the blue color is for harmony. And finally, the last color, which is violet, favorite color by the way, which is why all of my branding is purple. But the final color is violet, which is to represent spirit. So each one of these 8 colors has a distinctive meaning behind it, and I absolutely love this flag. Now this flag was in circulation for many years, and up until Milk's assassination. So Harvey Milk unfortunately was assassinated for we don't fully know the reasons why, but Harvey Milk was assassinated for what is believed to be his activist work with for the LGBTQ+ community. And in 1978, we looked at a different flag. So this was the next flag actually that we essentially started. So this flag was in circulation for 1978 to 1979. You can see that actually the hot pink has been removed from the flag, and as I said, the assassination of Harvey Milk, it demanded for the gay pride flag as a symbol of hope and joy for the mourning community. And of course, because we lost somebody who was a politician, who was essentially on our side, it meant that we needed that new hope, if you will. So what Gilbert Baker did is created a new flag that represented hope and freedom. So the hot pink, as I said, has been removed, and the reason that the hot pink was removed was actually because of the cost of the fabric, and it was hard to come by as well. So because it was that hard to source, they essentially stripped out the hot pink, and this became the flag essentially in memory of Harvey Milk. And this was used for around a year, just purely because to commemorate him and to keep his name in honor. And then we moved on to the traditional pride flag, and the traditional pride flag has the violet color still, but it then removes the lighter purple, and it was in circulation in 1979. And the turquoise strip was also removed out as well, as you can see from here. So the turquoise strip was stripped out, and the lighter purple was actually stripped out. So it actually reduced itself down to 6 colors, and those 6 colors were in circulation in 1979 for a protest in response to Milk's assassination. So with 6 colors, the flag could be split in half evenly, flanking both sides of the street. The protest would march down, and from then on, this version of the flag will come to be forever linked with the LGBTQ plus rights and solidarity, living on the traditional pride flag seen most often until today. And in 2017, a new flag was introduced, and that was this flag right here. Now, as you can see, it has the traditional 6 colors of the flag, but at the top we also have the brown and the black color added as well. Now, this was actually introduced in 2017 and it was introduced by the city of Philadelphia. It was commissioned by the Philadelphia Office of LGBT Affairs as part of its More Color, More Pride campaign. So the flag was meant to represent the inclusion of queer people of color, people who, despite having played a foundational role in modern LGBTQ rights movement, often face marginalized in white and gay cis male centered spaces. So essentially, and the whole of, so going back to the Stonewall riots that we mentioned at the top of the episode, with the Stonewall riots, where we say in inverted commas the first brick was thrown, and the reason we say that it was, I'm just going to turn this off, the reason that we say it was the first brick in inverted commas is because there was no evidence to show that actually there was a first brick, and what people have looked at the brick as is actually a metaphorical thing, that this is the first time that we stepped up and we said, no, we're not going to take this anymore. And actually this movement, the Stonewall riots, were actually kicked off by our people of color within the LGBTQ plus community, trans activists within the LGBTQ plus community, and we wouldn't have these freedoms today if it wasn't for the people of color and trans activists and trans people of color from way back. And because of them, we do have the safe spaces that we do have today. We have the rights that we have today, the freedom that we have today. If it wasn't for those people of color and trans people, we would not be where we are. We would not be as progressive as we are. And so therefore in 2017, the Philadelphia or the city of Philadelphia introduced this flag to honor those people of color as well. Then more recently, we updated the flag again we called it the Progress Pride flag, which was this one here. And as you can see, the 6 colors are still there. So you've got your red, your orange, your yellow, your green, your blue, and your violet as well. But then we've also still got our people of color added into the arrow. But we've also got the 3 extra colors there. So we have the light blue, the light pink, and the white as well. Now, this was actually inspired by the new Philadelphia Pride flag. Daniel Quasar, a queer non-binary graphic designer in Oregon, and they set out to create a version of the flag that would help elevate marginalized queer identities even further. So this was actually released in 2018, and their Progress Pride flag incorporates the colors of the Trans Pride flag, and in its black stripe also honored those people living with and lost to HIV and AIDS. So the inclusion of the arrow, as Quasar explained in their Kickstarter, was intentional too. So the arrow points to the right to show movement, to show forward movement, while being along the left edge shows that progress still needs to be made. So if you look at this from a visual representation, the arrows on the left are literally so far on the left, and the reason for that is because of all of the distance that we still need to go. And I think personally it's a great little flag to have. I think it's from a visual perspective, absolutely love it, and I understand the story behind it. I understand why, and because of that, because you understand it a little bit more, you do come to really appreciate it too. And then lastly, we have the pride flag that is currently in circulation today. And this started in 2021. And as you can see, this now includes the last section of our pride flag, and it's the one with what people just call the circle, and it's the one with the circle on it. So the reason that it actually has a circle is because it actually incorporates another another flag within the LGBTQ plus community. This flag was in circulation from 2021 and it's currently used today as well. So if you go into certain retailers, you might see this flag around, or if you go to a pride event, or if you go to a city and they have the pride flags up, you might see this one and wonder why there's so many different things going on. Well, the reason that this pride flag got put into circulation is from the intersex people within the community, and from the intersex Equality Rights UK advocacy group member Valentino Vecchietti. It was incorporated in the design of the 2013 intersex flag, and it got a positive response from members of the community, writing on Instagram saying, since we posted this flag, intersex people and allies from all over the globe have said it is bringing them joy to see intersex inclusion. And that is all what the LGBTQ plus community is about. It's about the inclusion of everybody. It's not trying to make people stand out. It's not trying to give one community the spotlight over the other. And the inclusion of all of these different flags, and a lot of people have said before that, you know, why can't you just have one flag? Well, it's because we have, and we see progress. We see where we are now, and we see where we should be. And what we want to do is that we want to carry those people with us as well. So it's moving people over from the left over to the right, and we're gradually seeing that progress, and these people are with us, and these people are moving with us too. Now, you look at the flags in general. If you look at like the standard flag, the one that was around for many years, it turned into what people call the gay flag, and there are so many more communities within the LGBTQ plus community that it was unfair to continue using that type of flag, and we wanted to then show to our people of color within the community and our trans people that we see you are visible to us and you are part of us, and we wanted to represent them in the best way, and that's why they were included into the flag. And then you get the intersex people as well. It's all about visibility. It's all about showcasing who we are as a community and how we do move forward. So that is our pride section for today. Thank you for listening with that. As I said, if you do have questions, you can always get in touch with me as well. My email is inquiries@marcuswright.uk. Now, before we get into the email section, I just wanted to say that from next week, we'll also be talking about more flags. So we've actually got other flags within the community. We have like the bisexual flag. We actually have a pansexual flag. We talk about the transgender flag. So and the transgender flag more recently has been one that's had more prominent. It's been more prominent within the community because of the rights, or the rights being taken away from the trans community. But we also have flags for the asexual community, the demisexual flag, we have the omnisexual flag, we have lesbian flags, which not many people know about either. We also have genderqueer flags, we have non-binary flags, intersex flags, which we've talked about briefly today. We have gender fluid flags, agender flags, our aromantic flag. And as I'm saying all of these, people will be like, oh my god, how many do we have? Well, we're going to talk about all of these different flags, but also what these terminologies mean for people. And that's why this is so important for this month, because I want people to have that education so they can have stronger conversations in their businesses, in their everyday lives, and we're being more inclusive with our language as well. So let's move on to our questions. As I said before, people have been in touch with me to ask their questions, and I'm so happy to go through there are some really great questions that have been sent through. And as I said before, you can always get in touch with me for questions. You can ask them live if you wanted to tune in live, or what you can do is you can email me on my email address with a question, and I will answer it live on air as well. So let's get into it. Let's talk about some of these questions that have come through. So we are going to start with this one. What kinds of things might a person who is lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender go through when coming out? This was sent from Laura in Manchester. Thank you so much for your email, Laura. So what kind of things might a person who is lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender go through when coming out? I suppose it depends really on their background or their community that they are currently in, not the LGBTQ plus community, but the community that they are growing up in, whether that be they are very family orientated, they are very friends orientated, what is the outside impact that this could have on them. So if are religions involved in it, right? And these are things that people go through. How are people going to react? They then look at all of the outside influences that could influence a certain person's thoughts, and all of this adds on to that anxiety level on the inside of them. And you see, like, if you go onto YouTube or you go onto TikTok or you see, Instagram reels or anything like that about people who are sharing their coming out story, and you see them all emotional, it's because they have pent up all of this stuff for so long. I actually have this terminology that I use, and I call it breathing for the first time. So how I envision it, and this is because obviously personal experience, but how I envision it is you are essentially holding your breath all the way through. You are holding your breath, you are wearing a mask, you are building up these walls around you because you have learned to keep this side of you away. If, for example, you have not had those supportive parents, or you've been in a community or are surrounding yourself with people who you feel as though might not necessarily be accepting, or you might not be accepting of yourself, and that's also a factor as well. What you do is that you end up creating this mask, and you end up building these walls around you, and you essentially hold your breath because you are so scared to either say something or do something to give yourself away. You start mimicking other people's behaviors, and you start mimicking the way that people walk, the way that people talk, because you are so scared of revealing who you really are and revealing that crack in the armor, if you will. And so all of these thoughts and feelings are going through someone's mind when they are coming out, that they don't know that if the life that they have built, if that's going to come crashing down. Because as I said, when you build up these walls and you wear this mask, you have essentially built this life, and you are so scared that these walls will just come crashing down, and you are showing this vulnerability, and people will exploit it, people will hurt you, people will damage you, whether that be mentally or physically. Will these people still respect me? Will these people still be in my life? It's such a hard thing. And then when they finally do come out, it is like breathing for the first time. It is like you have been holding onto that breath for so long, and then suddenly you're like, and it's like this weight has lifted off your shoulder. But all of these feelings and all of this, these thoughts, these intrusive thoughts, this anxiety, that is still present, because you have to essentially tell more and more people, and you don't know how these people are going to react. You don't know if your workplace is not going to be supportive. You don't know what support there is for people of the LGBTQ plus community within workplaces. It's not very openly talked about. It's not one of those things that, people go, oh, if I need to talk to somebody about this particular matter, who do I speak to? There is not, without doing your own research, without doing your own digging into it, there isn't really that much promotion or talking about the support network that is out there for different marginalized groups. And I feel like that is something that does need to change. I feel that there is definitely something that needs to happen when it comes to showcasing the support that we offer. We talk about mental health quite a lot in workplaces because we know that obviously we work more than we spend time at home. Sometimes, in some cases, of course, but we do talk about mental health a lot. We talk about this is the phone that you can, this is the phone number that you can call, or this is the email address that you can email if you are feeling X, Y, and Z. If you are feeling burnt out, for example, these are the people that you can speak to. If you are struggling outside because of debt and because of worry, then these are the people that you can speak to. However, there's never anything that talks about support for the LGBTQ plus community. What does being LGBTQ plus mean? How do we be better allies? How do we be more inclusive with our messaging with workplaces? And this is an issue that I found for many years, that there isn't really a point of contact or messaging out there, a poster or something like that, where people can contact if they just wanted to. There are so many people who are questioning who they are and what their identity is, and it's up to them essentially to figure it out. And I feel as though somebody or a company or a business or something needs to be implemented where people who are even just questioning or going through transition or recently come out and have lost people because of it, like lost friends, lost family members, they have been shunned by their church or their religion, they have come out and people are very, very supportive, but they don't know how they can, how they have to now maneuver through this life. There isn't anything to support or actively support or promote support for the LGBTQ plus community in workplaces, and I think it's something that definitely needs to change. So yeah, all of these thoughts go through someone's mind when they are coming out. How is this person going to react? And the more that we can do to essentially have that space, I think this actually comes up later on in somebody else's question, but essentially the more that we can do to offer a safe space for people for when they are ready, then that's what we do. So thank you for your question. Next question comes from Amy over in Lancashire. So that's where I'm from, Lancashire. So this next question comes from Amy in Lancashire. So when was the moment you knew? The moment that everything sort of crystallized? Very good question, actually. So I didn't fully know myself. This was actually a really hard thing for me. And this is another question later on down the line, so I won't say too much because I do want to answer the question that's later on as well. But the moment that I knew was when there was different points. I think there was points when I was young, when I was very young, and I thought, and looking back, I think, that was a telltale sign. But I think the moment that I knew fully who I was and how I wanted to identify and what it meant for me in my life, I think that it was more that I was in college and I started to explore, and I knew that I was more curious more than anything, and I wanted to have the opportunity to explore, and so I did when I was at college. And the reason that I went to a certain college is so I didn't go to the same college as any of my school friends, and that's where my mind was at with it. But I wanted to explore, and I think that from that point I kind of knew, but I didn't want to admit it still. And I think it kind of very much fell in place when I went to university. And when I went to university, it was just, there was a few friends there, and they knew before I was ready to accept it, and they essentially just gave me that space to go, you still you, essentially. Like, that's not what the words that they used. They essentially just said that what do you think of that person over there? And I was like, and they put me in this position, and I was like, taken aback by it. And they just had open conversations about, same sex and same sex relationships, and they created this space for me where I could go, I found people here who are really accepting, and it just gave me that opportunity to go, okay, I think I can breathe. After years of being pent up, I think this was the time that I could breathe, and I was so grateful that I did. This question comes from, it's actually an anonymous question. You can send in anonymous questions if you want to, that's perfectly fine. So this is an anonymous question. So what is life like for you on a daily basis? I mean, for me personally, it's okay. Like there's no real drama, no real issue. I think there are certain times where you kind of go back into your shell a little bit. Like for me, I definitely do. Like if I'm with a group of new people, and so when I was growing up in high school, I was severely bullied, because of my flamboyancy. Let's say. But I was severely bullied in high school, which then meant that that still affects me today. So if I see a group of people, I still revert back to that person of the wall being put up, the mask being put on, if you will. Like I don't want to show who I am just in case this person judges me, and I've got to really take that on board. And I think that still has that element. But then also, I still don't know how people are going to react, and I think that's always going to be a thing. When you have gone through certain traumas, or you're carrying your past, or that your past is, because it does. Like anything that we go through, it changes our perception of the world, and that is the work that I do with MW coaching. Is how do we change that perception? How do we look at your past history and we think, oh, well, how can I channel that into something else? And I still go through it. I still go have those experiences. I'll walk into a store, for example, like with my full-time job, I'll walk into a store and they'll ask me certain things, or we'll be having a conversation, and I'm very conscious about the certain terminology that I use. And some people aren't like that. Some people can just walk up to someone and go, oh yeah, this is me. I'm gay, I'm lesbian, I'm bi, I'm trans, whatever. But there are a huge majority of people who, and myself included, I'm very cautious about certain things that I say. I'm very cautious about my mannerisms and the way that I speak and the way that I talk, because I don't want people to judge me in a certain different way, or look at me in a different light, or I'm unsure of the support that, or unsure of the relationship that can be built between me and this other person, because I don't know their viewpoints. And because of all of these thoughts that go through my mind, that's pretty much what my daily life basis is. I struggle sometimes with reading a person and how supportive that person might be, and sometimes it doesn't even matter. Sometimes I shouldn't even care, but I do, and that's purely because of my past history. So yeah, that's overall, daily life is fine, but sometimes there is that thing, that little niggly thing that just goes, ooh, gotta be careful what you say. And yeah, I think overall that's that. Just that's the Okay, moving on to the next question that was sent in. I just realized that actually as well. I do have a banner for this for anybody that was just popping in and going, oh, what is this section going? I do have sections. This is it, you see. This is the spotlight questions section. So the next question that was sent in was, what should I do if I think someone is lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender, but they haven't told me? Very easy. There are two different types of people when they look at this question, and number one is and this is like kind of like the immature response, let's say. I think the immature response would be that they would just go up to that person and just go, are you this, or are you that, or what is this, or what is that, and do you have a boyfriend, do you have a girlfriend? And it's such a counterproductive way of allowing that person to have that free space. So this is one of the questions that I wanted to come back to. We have to allow them to come to that conclusion themselves. We might think that that person is gay or bisexual or transgender. They might not be. There are many different males or females, for example, that you might presume to be gay, lesbian, bi, or transsexual, or intersex, or non-binary, or all of these other genders and sexualities. There are so many different ones that people might identify as. So you presuming doesn't mean anything. Until that person tells you, it doesn't mean anything. And so all you have to do is just offer that safe space. You bring certain things up into conversation, or just let them know that no matter what happens, or what are their viewpoints on certain things. And then you can say, well, no matter what, this is what I would think, this is what I would do, this is what I would believe. And you are essentially offering them that safe space. So then they are aware that with you, there is a safe space. So that is how you would handle it. You don't presume. You might have a think. You might think, you know what, that person might be a lesbian, or that person might be gay. But you can't act on that. You can't tell them. You can't ask them. You can't presume, and you can't just bring that up into a conversation. Because that essentially pushes somebody further back into the closet, this closet that people talk about. But yeah, it essentially makes them feel as though they can't yet, and they can get quite defensive if they are questioning something themselves, or if they aren't necessarily Say, for example, you have spoken to somebody and you think that they are gay, they might actually be bi, and if you say that, are you gay? Are you gay? Are you gay? They might be purely thinking to themselves, well, I'm not, and they think that I am, and whatever, but they might also be questioning it as well, and that'll be really defensive, and they might think that this person isn't as open-minded as I thought. And so therefore, we don't want to add any more damage to that. So what we want to do is we want to just create that safe space, talking about an open conversation about somebody else that or what's your stance on this, for example, and then having that conversation where you can openly say that you are being supportive, or you don't even have to say that you are being supportive. You can just say what you believe in. What are your thoughts on it? What are your thoughts on the trans community right now in 2023, the state of the US when it comes to the trans movement, and what are your thoughts? And when you deliver your thoughts, you are then offering your own insights and your own beliefs, which then means that if it comes off in a positive way, you are showcasing that you are an ally, you are somebody that this person can speak to about their issues, their insecurities, their sexuality, their gender. So that's how you would do that. What do you struggle with every day that a straight person wouldn't know about? Okay, so one of the things that I struggle with on a day-to-day basis is essentially what I was saying before when it comes to how people perceive me. I think that I'm very vocal on, like, say, social media about the LGBTQ plus community and my work within the LGBTQ plus community. So, people would assume 2 + 2 = 4. But there are certain people who don't necessarily assume that. And or if, for example, I am speaking to people, as I said before, like to new people, I would hesitate or have a guard up, essentially, and not many straight people would know that. I'm married, so I've got my husband, and being able to, like, walk down the street or go for a meal with my husband, and even down to, like, holding hands in public, things like that. There are people who do, and we don't, and it's because of that. We don't know how people are going to react. When we first got together, we were in a little a backwards town, let's say. We're in a little backwards town who would have said something, would have thrown slurs out there, etc., if they saw us that we were and we were holding hands. So we just don't do it. These are some of the struggles that we go through. The fact that or these are some of the struggles that I go through every day that a straight person wouldn't know or wouldn't realize. That you can't just like have a conversation with someone without them thinking, oh, is he? You can't just walk down the street holding hands. You've got to defend yourself and your sexuality online. For example, when somebody comes out and they say certain things, and you're like, no, but you're not getting it. You're not understanding. I think these are the things, the everyday things that people don't realize. Even down to like going to a wedding, for example. If, for example, you go to a same-sex wedding, how many cards are there in a card shop to choose from for a same-sex wedding? There are all the bride and groom ones. Well, there's like what, 3 at the end of the aisle or something like that you can choose from for a same-sex marriage. When you go to when somebody like Christmas cards or invitations where it's always like him and her or whatever, like wedding gifts. Wedding gifts is another one that I struggle with, to be fair. So if, for example, we were going to go to a same-sex wedding and we wanted to get them an actual gift rather than just giving them money, the amount of like him and hers or hers and his gifts that there are, and there's never any like him and him or she and she or her and her or they and them or whatever. Like there's never any gifts like that. And these are some of the things that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. But yeah, as I said, like even just down to holding hands in public, being careful of how we walk or talk in certain situations, being concerned with how that person in front of me is gonna handle the situation if I tell them, I'm married or I have a boyfriend or I have a girlfriend or whatever. Like these are certain things that straight people don't have to worry about because they are in inverted commas, they're normal. These are certain things that they don't have to worry about. And it does become a struggle, but it is, we are at that point where I just kind of shrug it off, going, it is what it is, it's fine. Moving on, next question that was sent through. This is from Jenny in Warrington. Thank you so much for sending me your email, Jenny. What was the hardest part about coming out? For me personally, I mean, there are so many different people who have different coming out stories, from whether they come from a religious background or they come from a very strict parent background or whatever. For me personally, it was myself. I think I was the person who stood in my way. Not that I think, I know I was the person that stood in my own way. Essentially what happened with me is that because I was bullied in high school for my sexuality, and I wasn't out, essentially in my head, I was like, but I'm not. And they know something about me and that isn't true, or before I even knew it myself. And because of that, because of my hatred towards these types of people, I wanted, in the right way, to prove them all wrong. I was like, I'm going to make something of my life and I'm going to prove you all wrong. And what happened from there was actually that a great mindset to have. It was the wrong situation though. Like rather than me thinking about the fact that, they were calling me dumb or stupid or whatever and going, no, I'm going to prove you wrong. It was me essentially going, you're calling me gay or you're calling me queer and all of this lot, and I'm going to prove you wrong. As I said, great mindset to have, wrong situation. And so what that ended up doing was me hating myself because I had told myself that I wanted to prove them all wrong. And if I admitted this, it meant that they were right. And that did something in my head that was indescribable. It meant that I really struggled with my sexuality. It meant that I was essentially forcing myself back into the closet. It meant that I was my worst enemy. I was the person that was the bad person because I was not allowing myself to be who I am. And that was the hardest part about coming out, because I genuinely at that point hated myself so much because I was admitting something that I spent years trying to disprove. That was the hardest thing for me. But now I'm flamboyant enough and to throw glitter in people's faces and go, you know what, look at me. You don't like me? Leave it. I don't care. So yeah, that was pretty much the hardest thing for me. It was the fact that I built this whole persona, this whole wall to and this mask every single day to essentially move away from that. And essentially what I'd ended up doing was proving them right, and I hated myself for it even further. But now, I've learned to accept everything and myself and all of that lot. So, I mean, many years ago I learned all of that, but it still does. I definitely remember it vividly. Anyway, what is a question you hate being asked? And that was asked by Laura in Chorley. Hi, Laura in Chorley. Thank you so much for your email. So, what is a question you hate being asked? I think a question I hate being asked is one of the things I hate being asked is so what does your wife do, or what does your girlfriend do, or something like that, and it's just such a presumption. And I actually get asked it quite often, to be fair. And you always just, because then suddenly you start thinking, right, okay, this person might not be as progressive or as forward-minded, or, right, okay, so this person might start questioning me or whatever. And suddenly your guards come back up again, because you start thinking this person has a heterosexual mindset, a very narrow-minded mindset. Do I need to open it up a little bit? Are they going to be okay with it? And all of these questions start running through your brain. And yeah, I think that's one of the questions that I absolutely hate. The second question that I will absolutely hate is when you are in a same-sex relationship and you go to like events or whatever, and you see people and they meet you for the first time, and they say, and this is absolutely hate this, they say to you, so who's the man and who's the woman? And the reason I hate it is because we're both men, that's the point. We're both men, that's the point. Okay, if one of us were the woman, we wouldn't be in the relationship. And I know what they mean, but I hate the question. And then with that, like, you just start thinking, well, what would you do if I was to ask you something like that, some intrusive thing like that? Like, there's certain questions that I could ask that would put you on the spot where you would go, I don't know how to take that, but I'm not going to, because I'm a respectful person. So yeah, thank you so much for your questions. Them sent in. As I say, if you are watching YouTube or on Facebook, you are able to ask me a question live. You're able to just drop it live, or drop it after the live stream has finished, and I will get back to you as well. Or alternatively, what you can do is that you can send me a question every single day of every single week, as we are doing these live shows over on enquiries@marcuswright.uk. So that was your question time. Thank you so much. So we were supposed to only be doing this for like 30 minutes, but I've ended up talking absolutely loads. But to be fair, what we're going to do is we're going to look at this as like a pilot thing, and we're going to look at it as this was episode 1 when you need to introduce absolutely everything in the format and all of that lot. So therefore, that's why we've run over massively. But it's supposed to only be like it's supposed to be like 30 minutes of your time on a Monday morning to go through everything. So moving on from our spotlight questions section. So what can you and your business do? Learn about pride, learn about the history, learn about the fact that it's not a party, it's a protest. If you are one of those companies who are going to be changing their color, or you're going to be putting pride flag cupcakes out, or you're going to be putting pride flags everywhere, learn about the history of it, learn about why you're doing it, learn about like what that flag means that you're putting out, learn about the language, learn about absolutely everything that you can do before you just start doing stuff like that by jumping on the bandwagon. It's so important for you to have that education, so then you can be a better ally, and you can offer better support to your employees and to the team in general. There's so much more that you can do than just changing colors. Like, that doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything. Let's be honest. Like, I'm going to change the colors of my MW coaching sign to a rainbow sign. It doesn't do anything. It just means that I'm showcasing that, we're progressive. We're supportive. Are you though? Because there are companies who have changed their colors and things like that, but aren't actually that supportive. Like there are companies over in America, for example, who have changed the colors of X, Y, and Z and put flags everywhere. But as soon as a heterosexual person had started making complaints, they removed them because they didn't want to rock the boat. And that's what Pride is all about. It's about rocking the boat and being seen and being visible. And so if you are going to change your colors, if you are going to put flags up everywhere, if you are going to have like your little cupcakes, if you are going to have glitter everywhere or whatever, great. But what else are you doing? What are you doing to actually show support for the LGBTQ plus people that you have in your business? So be a better ally, educate yourself, and do more to support internally. If you want to showcase on LinkedIn, on your social medias, on adverts, on TV, etc., that you are supportive of the LGBTQ plus community, great. You crack on with that. But actually do something within your business to enforce change and to enforce that support network for LGBTQ plus people. That's all I'm going to say on the matter. I think that there are far too many companies who are quick to change the colors, but actually not do any changes on the inside of it. How many people have sat down with their LGBTQ plus people and actually listened to them about their thoughts and their struggles of going through their everyday life? Two times this year, I've been into different places, nothing to do with my workplace whatsoever, just as an FYI and as a disclaimer. But 2 times I've gone into different places and experienced homophobic slurs thrown at me. One by an actual customer, and one by somebody who worked for a different business who saw me and the work that I was doing. So, what are these people and what are these businesses doing to support their colleagues, their team, their employees of LGBTQ plus people? If I was not in a good headspace, if I didn't, if I took that the wrong way, if I took these slurs the wrong way and I dwelled on them, I could be leaving my job, I could be suicidal, I could be depressed. It could push me further back into the closet if I was questioning. There are so many different different things that this can affect. And this is what I was saying from like, what can we do more? There is no support network. There is no support call that you can make to LGBTQ plus people. There are obviously outside, but the only way that you can get those is through your own research. There's a brilliant organization called Mind Out, which obviously we all know Mind, the mental health charity. Mind Out is the mental health charity reaching out specifically for the LGBTQ plus community. But how many people know that? And what does your workspace have to offer? So yeah, what can you in your work, what can you in your business do? If you are offering or you are showcasing on social media, putting posts up, etc., about how progressive you are in the support network and how supportive you are, and you're wanting to celebrate Pride because you're celebrating your inclusivity and your diverse team, great. Okay, realistically, it does nothing. It doesn't mean anything. What are you actually doing? Put together a survey and find out how many people within your team are actually identifying as LGBTQ+. And you can't just rely on the information that has come from when they first applied, because people change. Like their sexuality might change, their gender might change, the way that they want to identify might change. So how often have people ever talked about that? When was the last time that you put a survey out there to find out how people identify? How many people have put out something out there to the reason why it's important that we address certain people with certain pronouns, etc. And that's something that we're going to be talking about on one of these weeks as well. Well, what have you done specifically to show that you support your LGBTQ plus employees? That's what I would ask you to do today, whenever you're watching this or whenever you're listening to this. And then by the end of Pride Month, let's see that that's installed. Let's see that you have done something about it, because it's super, super important. So how can I help? How can I help your business? How can MW Coaching help? So MW Coaching can help with things like, creating you an inclusive form that you can send out to your employees to find out about the language that they want to use, or the certain pronouns that they want to use, or how else do they identify, etc. We can also talk about allyship, and we can bust some myths as well. You can find out all of the help that I can offer. There's so much things that I can offer certain businesses, and small businesses, large businesses, managing directors, or just the team itself, one-to-ones, virtual, whatever you're wanting. We can essentially tailor a plan for you. And you can head over to my website at www.marcuswright.uk, and you'll be able to find out all of the work that I can do for you and your business. And you can even book your discovery call with me on the website as well. And we can put a plan in place. Let's get some plans put in place for June. Let's start making some actual changes for the LGBTQ plus community within your workspaces. And together, let's move forward in pride in a better mindset than just changing a flag, putting some flags up and changing your logo into the pride flag. Yeah. I think that's the main important thing. There is so much more that you can do. So let's work together in the right direction. Okay? So thank you so much for joining me on the very first episode of MW Coaching Live. It's been an absolute pleasure to be able to do something like this again. And yeah, I think that so from next week we'll be learning some more about the pride flags or the flags within the LGBTQ plus community. And what we're also going to be doing is we're going to be diving more into those questions and what more we can do within our within our businesses for our LGBTQ plus allies, brothers, sisters, thems, and friends, let's say. So thank you so much for joining. It's been an absolute pleasure. As I said, if you are watching this live next week, then you can leave a comment and we can interact with it. You can ask questions and we can have a conversation. If you're wanting to get in touch with me on email and leave some questions for me, if you want to ask your teams any questions, or ask your team to leave any questions for me to answer live on air, then feel free to as well. It's just enquiries@marcus.uk. So yeah, thank you so much for joining. It's been an absolute pleasure. And until we speak again, until next week on MW Coaching Live, it is a bye from me. Thank you so much.